This is Charlene Burke with Grow Because You Know. That's www.growbecauseyouknow.com. Welcome to Morning Mindset Cafe, where we read a few pages of Think and Grow Rich and then discuss in live stream and in the comment area. Today, on the version that I'm reading, we're reading pages 238 to 244, and the focus is the fear of illness, the fear of lost love. Let's get started, shall we? The bottom of page 240. Symptoms. The bottom of page 238. The fear of ill health. This fear may be traced to both physical and social heredity. It is closely associated as to its origin with the causes of fear of old age and the fear of death, because it leads one closely to the border of terrible worlds, of which man knows not, but concerning which he has been taught some discomforting stories. The opinion is somewhat general also that certain unethical people engaged in the business of selling health have had not a little to do with the keeping alive the fear of ill health. In the main, man fears ill health because of the terrible pictures which have been planted in his mind of what may happen if death should overtake him. He also fears it because of the economic toil which it may claim. A reputable physician estimated that 75% of all people who visit physicians for professional service are suffering from hypochondria, imaginary illness. It has been shown most convincingly that the fear of disease, even where there is not the slightest cause for fear, often produces the physical symptoms of the disease feared. Powerful and mighty is the human mind. It builds or it destroys. Playing upon this common weakness of fear of ill health, dispensers of patent medicines have reaped fortunes. This form of imposition upon credulous humanity became so prevalent some 20 years ago that Collier's Weekly Magazine conducted a bitter campaign against some of the worst offenders in the patent business. During the flu epidemic, which broke out during the World War, the mayor of New York City took drastic steps to check the damage which people were doing themselves through their inherent fear of ill health. He called in the newspapermen and said to them, "Gentlemen, I feel it necessary to ask you not to publish any scare headlines concerning the flu epidemic. Unless you cooperate with me, we will have a situation which we cannot control." The newspapers quit publishing stories about the flu, and within 1 month, the epidemic had been successfully checked. Through a series of experiments conducted some years ago, it was proved that people may be made ill by suggestion. We conducted this experiment by causing 3 acquaintances to visit the victims, each of whom asked the question, "What ails you? You look terribly ill." The first questioner usually provoked a grin and a nonchalant, "Oh, nothing, I'm all right," from the victim. The second questioner usually was answered with the statement, "I don't know exactly, but I do feel badly." The third questioner was usually met with a frank admission that the victim was actually feeling ill. Try this on an acquaintance if you doubt that it will make him uncomfortable, but do not carry the experiment too far. There is a certain religious sect whose members take vengeance upon their enemies by the hexing method. They call it placing a spell on the victim. There is overwhelming evidence that disease sometimes begins in the form of negative thought impulse. Such an impulse may be passed from one mind to another by suggestion or created by an individual in his own mind. A man who was blessed with more wisdom than this incident might indicate once said, "When anyone asks me how I feel, I always want to answer by knocking him down." Doctors send patients into new climates for their health because a change of mental attitude is necessary. The seed of fear of ill health lives in every human mind. Worry, fear, discouragement, disappointment in love and business affairs cause this seed to germinate and grow. The recent business depression kept the doctors on the run because every form of negative thinking may cause ill health. Disappointments in business and in love stand at the head of the list of causes of fear of ill health. A young man suffered a disappointment in love which sent him to a hospital. For months he hovered between life and death. A specialist in suggestive therapeutics was called in. The specialist changed nurses, placing him in charge of a very charming young woman who began, by prearrangement with the doctor, to make love to him the first day of her arrival on the job. Within 3 weeks, the patient was discharged from the hospital, still suffering, but with an entirely different malady. He was in love again. The remedy was a hoax, but the patient and the nurse were later married. Both are in good health at the time of this writing. Symptoms of the fear of ill health. The symptoms of this almost universal fear are autosuggestion, the habit of negative use of self-suggestion by looking for and expecting to find the symptoms of all kinds of disease. Enjoying imaginary illness and speaking of it as being real. The habit of trying all fads and isms recommended by others as having therapeutic value. Talking to others of operations, accidents, other forms of illness. Experimenting with diets, physical exercise, reducing symptoms without professional guidance. Trying home remedies, patent medicines, and quack remedies. Hypochondria, the habit of talking of illness, concentrating the mind upon illness, and expecting its appearance until a nervous break occurs. Nothing that comes in bottles can cure this condition. It is brought on by negative thinking, and nothing but positive thought can effect a cure. Hypochondriac, a medical term for imaginary disease, is said to do as much damage on occasion as the disease one fears most do. Most so-called cases of nerves come from imaginary illness. Exercise. Fear of ill health often interferes with proper physical exercise and results in overweight by causing one to avoid outdoor life. Susceptibility. Fear of ill health breaks down nature's body resistance and creates a favorable condition for any form of disease one may contact. The fear of ill health often is related to the fear of poverty, especially in the case of the hypochondriac, who constantly worries about the possibility of having to pay doctor's bills, hospital bills, etc. This type of person spends much time preparing for sickness, talking about death, saving money for cemetery lots and burial expenses, and etc. Self-coddling, the habit of making a bid for sympathy, using imaginary illness as the lure. People often resort to this trick to avoid work. The habit of feigning illness to cover plain laziness or to serve as an alibi for lack of ambition. Intemperance, the habit of using alcohol or narcotics to destroy pain such as headaches, neuralgia, etc., instead of eliminating the cause. The habit of reading about illness and worrying over the possibility of being stricken by it. The habit of reading patent medicine advertisements. The fear of loss of love. The original source of this inherent fear needs but little description, because it obviously grew out of man's polygamous habit of stealing his fellow man's mate and his habit of taking liberties with her whenever he could. Jealousy and other similar forms of dementia grow out of man's inherited fear of the loss of love of someone. This fear is the most painful of all the 6 basic fears. It probably plays more havoc with the body and mind than any of the other basic fears, as it often leads to permanent insanity. The fear of the loss of love probably dates back to the Stone Age, when men stole women by brute force. They continue to steal females, but their technique has changed. Instead of force, they now use persuasion, promise of pretty clothes, motor cars, and other bait, which much more effective than physical force. Man's habits are the same as they were in the dawn of civilization, but he expresses them differently. Careful analysis has shown that women are more susceptible to this fear than men. This fact is easily explained. Women have learned from experience that men are polygamous by nature, that they are not to be trusted in the hands of rivals. Symptoms of the fear of loss of love. The distinguishing symptoms of this fear are jealousy, the habit of being suspicious of friends and loved ones without any reasonable evidence of sufficient grounds. Jealousy is a form of dementia, which sometimes becomes violent without the slightest cause. The habit of accusing wife or husband of infidelity without grounds, general suspicion of everyone, absolute faith in no one. Fault finding, the habit of finding fault with friends, relatives, business associates, and loved ones upon the slightest provocation, without any cause whatsoever. Gambling, the habit of gambling, stealing, cheating, and otherwise taking hazardous chances to provide money for loved ones with the belief that love can be bought. The habit of spending beyond one's means, or incurring debts to provide gifts for loved ones with the object of making a favorable showing. Insomnia, nervousness, lack of persistence, weakness of will, lack of self-control, lack of self-reliance, bad temper. The fear of old age. In the main, This fear grows out of two sources. First, the thought that old age may bring with it poverty. Second, and by far the most common source of origin, from false and cruel teachings of the past, which have been too well mixed with fire and brimstone and other bogies cunningly designed to enslave man through fear. In the basic fear of old age, man has two very sound reasons for his apprehension. One growing out of his distrust of his fellow man, who may seize whatever worldly goods he may possess, and the other arising from the terrible pictures of the world beyond, which were planted in his mind through social heredity before he came into full possession of his mind. The possibility of ill health, which is more common as people grow older, is also a contributing factor for this common fear of old age. Eroticism also enters into the cause of the fear of old age, as no man cherishes the thought of diminishing sex attraction. The most common cause of fear of old age is associated with the possibility of poverty. Poorhouse is not a pretty word. It throws a chill into the mind of every man who faces the possibility of having to spend his declining years on a poor farm. Another contributing cause of the fear of old age is the possibility of loss of freedom and independence, as old age may bring with it the loss of physical and economic freedom. Symptoms of the fear of old age. The commonest symptoms of this fear are the tendency to slow down and develop an inferiority complex at the age of mental maturity, around the age of 40, falsely believing oneself to be slipping because of age. The truth is that man's most useful years, mentally and spiritually, are those between 40 and 60. The habit of speaking apologetically of oneself as being old, merely because one has reached the age of 40 or 50, instead of reversing the rule and expressing gratitude for having reached the age of wisdom and understanding. The habit of killing off initiative, imagination, self-reliance by falsely believing oneself too old to exercise these qualities. The habit of the man or woman of 40 dressing with the aim of trying to appear much younger and affecting mannerisms of youth, thereby inspiring ridicule by both friends and strangers. I'm going to stop there because that was an awful lot. Good morning, everybody who's come in. Hello, Omar. Hi, Dina. Good to see you. And Michelle. What a joy always to see you. Dave. Nice to have you with us. Glad you're here. There you are, Cindy. Came in after I already started reading. Craig, good to see you. Hello, Eric. All right, everybody. So talking about a lot of different fears. Some of them, what we're on to now is the specifics, the fear of ill health and how we can cause it in ourselves. Fear of the loss of love. Oh God, jealousy is horrifying. I watch it happen all the time, how quickly that can bring us down, right? That fear of old age, and poo-pooing that somebody who is a particular age or that we are approaching a particular age and it frightens us. Anybody want? Brony, hi, welcome. Hanadi, good to see you. Anybody want to jump in and talk about some of these fears or the symptoms? And how interesting it is he's pointed out some of these symptoms.
Hi.
Hi, it's been a while since we've seen you. How are you, dear?
You? I was watching you all the time, so
That just sounds so creepy.
An eye on you.
I know. I've seen you out there. So I hope you're doing well.
Like jumping onto calls or finishing my cooking or sorting something, so it would be hard to jump on. But today, done my cooking, sorting my kids, and I'm sitting with you.
How wonderful is that? It is wonderful, let me tell you. So what do you think?
Well, I just jumped in, so if you're going to give me like a recap.
Oh, sure. We're just simply talking about the fear of ill health. Some of the symptoms of being afraid of ill health, and this amazes me. The symptoms are all related to the mind that actually makes us sick. So there's hypochondria, there's autosuggestion, there is a susceptibility to others. Mm-hmm. I'm going to learn everything I can. With the advent of the internet, my own experience has been the increase of people at the doctor's office because suddenly they're sick, but it's because they looked up a symptom online and then they really made themselves sick. Yeah. So it's a fear of being ill, but it's the fear that is causing us to be ill because we're thinking about being ill. And it goes back, I think, to what Shawn Michael was always telling me, which is the mind cannot accept a negative. So it's not that the fear of being ill is that we'll tell ourselves, I don't want to be sick, but all we're hearing of ourselves is, I'm sick.
It's more of an acceptance of really what's going on with you. Some people enjoy the feeling of being sick because it's an attention seeker.
And that's pointed out in here. Yep.
So want to be victimized, and it's basically they're lacking a lot of being in the loop, basically.
Okay.
So that's mainly why people
just martyrdom, right? That feeling of martyrdom.
That's why people just ache for that, and they want to get there, and everybody's, oh, really, you're feeling not well? Oh, I'm so sorry. The sympathy and feeling sorry for them.
Right.
That's one area of looking at it, and some people enjoy and dwell on it. They feel, I'm alive again. It's a way of them to have a purpose in life, if you want to say.
Right.
The other kind of fear, which I went through myself because I was diagnosed with MS 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The fear for me was tomorrow. So,
and yet
in the
that's
moment right now.
Right. Okay.
Mm-hmm. No, go ahead, please.
Well, I was going to say, so what Napoleon Hill is talking about and what you're about to talk about will be a great segue, because what Napoleon Hill is saying, we can cause our issues with that fear because we're afraid of it. It's holding us back. It is causing us to be sick. You know, the next one is a symptom of the fear of loss of love is jealousy. Well, by God, if you're jealous, trust me, you're going to lose the one you love because they don't like anybody who's jealous, right? So it's this self-propelling, this prophecy of self-fulfilling prophecy is where I'm getting to. So go ahead. I want you to finish when you had your initial fear upon diagnosis.
Exactly. In the beginning, I was like, oh my God, what are you talking about? I mean, is it really something called MS? I never heard of it before. I was just 24. I'm 44 now. So it was a big shock for me. And till so I got symptoms, I half paralyzed, I couldn't do anything. So it was a big shock for me. And from there, I felt I couldn't have tomorrow. Mm-hmm. I've lost my hope of tomorrow.
The diagnosis alone did it for you, didn't it?
Yeah. And of course, there was no medication then, except you have your injection was every other day, and they're terrifying, horrifying, extremely expensive injection, which I couldn't afford at that time. It was a really, I thought if they told me I had cancer, I'd be much happier at that time. I'm
sorry.
Having cancer, I totally understand.
Isn't that funny? Because I thought if I'd had something else other than the diagnosis of a cancer, if it had been anything else, I could have handled it. Yet when I had cancer, the first thing I did was plan out my funeral.
Because cancer, you'll get chemotherapy, radiotherapy. You either get rid of it, or you die, or you live. So there's very. I'm just saying.
It's very definite.
I'm going to get specific.
Yeah, it's very definite though.
With MS, nobody can tell you what's going to happen tomorrow.
Okay.
You wake up in the morning.
The diagnosis itself comes with uncertainty.
Exactly. So basically, and even when I ask my doctor, so what do you think is going to happen to me? He's like, you know what? All the years I've studied as a neurologist, it can happen to you.
Yeah.
So I call it a lottery disease.
Interesting.
Because you wake up in the morning. That's what I do. I wake up in the morning. I check myself. Okay, I'm able to move my hands. My walking is fine. My balance today is a bit tricky. I need to take my stick. My speech is fine. Sometimes it's funny. Right. Sometimes I can't swallow. Mm-hmm. I forget to swallow. Don't ask me why, because nobody knows why.
Right. It's just a part of the disease.
It is. So for me, with no medication, not knowing what's going to happen to me tomorrow, I'm just living with the unknown. I was really wishing they told me that I have cancer, that I'm dying in a month. I would be much happier. Mm-hmm. So that means for me, tomorrow was very hard. I couldn't think of tomorrow. Right. And when I did my NLP masterclass, one of the exercises you do is to go through the timeline and to learn about timelines. So I was able to go in the past. I was able to stay in the present. I couldn't step one step in the future. I couldn't. I just broke down. I was crying because I didn't feel I have a future. Mm-hmm. And that is fear.
I
knowing you have
actually
no future.
understand that. I had that when I was not quite 18 years old. I knew I would not live past the age of 21. So I never thought past the age of 21.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, literally. So when 21 hit, it was, what the hell am I supposed to do now? Literally. Literally, for me, it was, you know, I'm thinking it's similar to you when you're sitting in that NLP masterclass of future. What future? There is no future. I can't think of tomorrow. And then suddenly somebody says, but tomorrow's here. It's like, oh, crap, I'm supposed to do something. Now what?
Exactly. And that's how I felt, Charlene. But look at you. Now you're here.
Oh, hell, I'm 51. Happy to say it. Joy, come on with me, you know.
Exactly. And this is how life is, really. It's the thing is to accept it and move forward from it.
So that is what we can take with us to combat what Napoleon Hill is telling us these symptoms are. If we recognize ourselves into that fear of old age, and the habits that we have of fault finding, that self-coddling, like you said, that martyrdom of I feel fine, but not really. I'll think of a way to not feel fine so you can feel sorry for me, that sort of thing. Instead, we just recognize that we're afraid of something, and we just are. So now move on with it, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. I mean, the moment I was able to see my future, when I really accepted what I have, I owned it. It's like it's part of me now. It's my second name or my second nature, like breathing.
Yes.
And then I was able to move forward.
I fully understand that. Thank you for that.
Before that, I was like, what am I going to do with it? This is strange things coming and invading my body. I mean, oh God, just get it on. The more you push, the more it's going to push you back.
Yes, absolutely.
The more I embraced it and I saw it as a gift, the better person I became.
Yes.
And look at me, I'm without medication still today, even though all my doctors want to shove some medication down my throat, but I said no. I've got 2 beautiful boys, got a great husband, and I'm still here walking and talking. I mean, you don't know exactly how I'm walking and talking, but I'm doing it.
The how of it doesn't matter. It's the fact that we are. That's the other thing to remember for me is that I'm upright and I'm sucking air, and sometimes that's all I got, but by God, I'm doing that, right? Which is better than the alternative.
Open your eyes and see the sun. That is the best thing ever.
Yeah. So I've been far enough away from drastic symptoms that have withheld me physically from being able to move that enough time has passed. And I'm going to say it's been maybe 4, 5, 6 years since. I'd have to really think about it. See, enough time has passed that I can't recall it clearly now, just how debilitating with the things that I had happening to me were. So I forget. So I thank you for reminding me, for bringing me back in the moment that says, that to put more feeling behind the gratitude, because I have gratitude and I express it verbally to my God every morning. But sometimes it's by rote, especially when you move far enough away from that which propelled you into being grateful.
True.
Where the comparison, right?
Get into it and just, you know what? I'm so grateful where I am.
Yeah. Yeah. Good reminder. And that is one of the best ways to combat these fears is perspective and the recognition that I don't want to feel this way. And he's telling us we can change that with our thoughts. I don't want to feel this way.
Well, if
how do I change that?
Fear, Charlene, is going to be fear. Why do we have to call it fear?
Because that's what we're studying in the book.
Yeah, but I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, for me, it was the fear. I mean, but when I started looking at it differently and not call it as fear or not aware of what's happening tomorrow, I didn't. I've changed my whole perspective and on my mindset. It's not fear. It's my life. Are you afraid of your life? No, it's my life. My life is with MS right now. My life with XYZ. Why should I fear it? We're doing this journey together. Either we make it or we don't. There's no other third thing to do.
And you're absolutely correct. And I am in full agreement with you. And what just went through my head was the but. And the but is when I forgot to be mindful and in the moment and understand that what I do now affects what will happen later, When you got to take care of something? Okay.
I'm at my door.
When I forget is when I get to thinking too much. Y'all have seen a bit of that. And I know some of y'all do that too. You've told me privately. Oh yeah, Zainab. Good to see you. Glad you're here. Good morning, Jim. I have no idea what RM Wraps are or who you are, but glad to have you here. So welcome, everybody. Great comments to the side. It is, a big shout out to Michelle, because she made a comment here that I want to make sure that everybody understands what she just said. So funny, we're talking about this today as I sit in the doctor's office for my first year after being diagnosed with breast cancer. Even though they got everything in surgery, it's still a process. Yes, when I had cancer, it wasn't breast cancer. 20 years ago? Anyway, yeah, 96. And I had surgery and the every 6 months, and then annual checkups. And then finally was declared cancer-free. Yay, we had a party then and have been since. So it is a process, but every time I would go into the doctor's office, it would bring it back. It would bring all the fear, and the way to combat that is exactly what Hannity is telling us. It's exactly what I did, which was to take the deep breath and get perspective. And we found a problem. I'm here to take care of the problem. This is how I work. Here's the problem. There's the answer. Now I've reduced the fear to some minor anxiety because I'm uncertain what the answer really is going to do to me. But I can deal with that more than I can deal with the overwhelming. Because I'm not kidding. When I was diagnosed with cancer in 96, it didn't take but just a few hours, and I was on the phone with my mother. We were planning out my funeral. Wow. That was it. She helped me walk it through because she knows how crazy I get in the head. She just helped me walk it right through. I mean, I had it down to the music, the color of the casket, the kind of flowers y'all better be buying for me. And she laughs today, but she says, you know, I gave it to your husband. He knows exactly what we're supposed to do for you.
Yeah, because if she didn't give it to you, you would never rest.
Well, that's it. Yeah, don't stop me. And so she knows me. She knows me very well. And so she just let me, and she asked questions. Are you sure that's the type of music? I thought you wanted this. Why don't you have this? And she just walked me right through it, and it got it out. And I was still very, very afraid, as she was. She tells me later, as of course my husband was. But that was one of the things that I could do, right, to control the thoughts, was to get it out. And it reduced the fear a bit. But at least it got the thought out, so I wasn't dwelling on it. Mm-hmm. And yes, you know, that's the thing, Michelle, I'll throw it out to you. My own experience has been one, and that's what Hannity was telling us, is that we need to acknowledge it. Once we can acknowledge it, then we can face it, and then we can figure out, well, then what's the solution? I call it being solution-oriented. You know, what is it that I can do? And honestly, sometimes I go through the exercise of the realization, which is really frustrating, or not a darn thing I can do about it. Not a darn thing. And that's where you go outside and you hit a tree. And may I recommend that you use a very badly made wooden bat to hit a tree. Do not use an aluminum bat. Do not use a big heavy 2x4. It reverbs and you'll get hurt. But if you use a cheapy wooden bat, it'll break. So you can still get the Yes, I've done this.
I haven't tried that, but it was trying.
Yeah, you know, big strong maple or oak tree, you're not going to hurt that sucker. You know, you might shake it up a little bit. But it worked, you know, it just works. And because sometimes I get very, very frustrated that I can't do anything about it. Not a darn thing. Other times it's a quick review. Well, this is happening. What can I do? Nothing. All right. I'm going to walk away and I'll go on with my day. You know, with people, places, and things. What can I do about it? Not a darn thing. All right. Sometimes it is that simple. Other times it really is something important to me.
You know what, Charlene, for me, I would never say nothing. There's always something you can do.
No. Now, when I can't do a darn thing about how you're living your life, Hannity. No, if that's what I'm talking about, where people get, and I taught, and this is something I've taught women who are coming from brokenness, okay, and trying to transition and learn life skills and what have you. And one of those is that you're so afraid, just so afraid. And it goes back to what we read. Some of the things they're so very afraid of are the things they're making themselves sick over, you know? And it's the recognition that what can you do about this? What can you do? You know, you've got yourself all wrapped up about your neighbor is in bad shape and doesn't want any help. You've offered everything you can, and they keep rebuffing you. And you know, you need to let go. You know, hold them to a distance, detachment. Teach them detachment, but also there's not a darn thing I can do about the wars that are going on. There's people that will get wrapped up in the wars. So exactly. Those are what I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly. And even just smiling when you see them, that is something you're doing to them. Say, how are you?
Yes. Oh, yes. That's okay. Individuals, yes.
So basically, little things might do a lot. So basically, I would never say I can do nothing, because if I smile to them, it might give them hope. Or might say, oh,
okay.
She cares. You know, and that's how I see things.
Yeah,
I never let somebody is helpless or hopeless, because there's always something you can do. Anything you can do is fine. I can cook something for her. Just, you know what? I did this great dish. How would you like to taste it? You know, that's how I deal with things, really. My neighbor had a big open heart surgery. I was helping. She was like very emotional. Oh, don't ask me why. Not ask me why. She was very emotional because she went through a lot of big surgery. And the only thing, she didn't want anybody around her. The thing I did her groceries, knocked her door, gave her tea when she needed, and I left her alone. Because she didn't want anybody. All she wanted is somebody to say, how are you today? You feeling okay? Fine.
You know, that's where you recognize there is something you can do. Yeah. There are situations where literally I look through and say, not a darn thing I can do here. I have to, or I have exhausted what I can do. It's time for me to move on. But again, it's the recognition, though, that if I stay in some place that gets my thoughts negative, let's take the ill health, okay? Neither one of us, I believe, caused the health issues we have. No. Napoleon Hill is saying that there are some people that can cause their own ill health by focusing so much on all of the bad, worrying about being able to pay doctor bills that aren't even here yet, worrying about how am I going to be, I hear it all the time, even today, especially today. How in the world am I going to be able to pay that insurance premium? Because I have to have insurance now. In the U.S., it's a requirement. People are getting themselves all worked up, and of course, they're getting themselves sick over it. It's like, whoa, you need to, whoa.
Exactly. Whoa. I will say, why to worry about tomorrow, and tomorrow's not here yet. Wait for tomorrow to
plan for tomorrow. Don't plan the outcomes. Exactly. Rob asked a question. Is it better for a person to help someone get it out, or is it better to try and suppress or change how they think about something? I only go by my own experience. I'm neither trained nor am I an expert in mental health. So mine is that if I've got a friend or I'm close to somebody who needs to talk something out, I have no problem assisting them with that. But if they talk it out for the 4th, 5th, 6th time, I walk away because there's nothing I can do about it. I've helped you find the answer. You're not doing it. There's nothing I can do. That's my response. I'm sticking to it until somebody gives me something better that's healthy for me.
Exactly. I mean, the thing
Ronnie, try again, dear.
If somebody needs help and they ask for it, I'm there for them for any help, for any assistance. If somebody doesn't want it, I just step back.
That's
they need to ask for it to really be of, you can give them help. Or other than that, you're pushing it down the throat, and it's not really doing anybody any good.
See, and I'm not. I am not trained in any of this. What we're talking about, I'm talking my own experiences and how I deal with people, how people have dealt with me, and how I'm trying to learn some details by what the book is bringing out. Dina, come back. I know you had a lousy internet connection. That was the problem. I did not kick you out. You know that, don't you? You know that. Oh goodness. Yeah, to what extent is it my responsibility to take care of somebody else? There's a question. Just something to think about. Which could go in with the symptom of the loss of love, right? Which is we feel that it's necessary that we be involved to the depths of somebody else to make ourselves worthy. Okay, Dina, let's try again. Because we had you for a moment.
Good morning.
There she is. Good morning, Dina.
I was on my iPad listening to you guys in my bed, and guess what? I am not well today.
I'm sorry to hear that.
So, any love is most welcome, but see, I'm with my gown,
sending it
no
to
makeup,
you,
nothing. But I thought, let me thank you. That people can see some of me, the real me, how I am in my ordinary life, with no, the formalities. So, when the topic is interesting, I have to share my bit. How probably you know me already.
So glad.
So I like the topic, and coincidentally, yes, I am not well today. And when we're talking about health, it's always a big challenge. And I myself also have to deal with an autoimmune disease, which is, for now, medicine says it cannot be, you can't fix it, so you have to live with it. And it's not as easy to say, I just accept it. Yeah, I tell myself to accept it. And I've read the comments as well. Acceptance is also a process. And you don't know how deep you have gone into your acceptance every time. Because I don't want that disease. Even I don't like being ill. And the reason that we don't want to be ill is it's not just the fear of death when it comes to health. I think we can easily cope with it, maybe not for our loved ones, but for ourselves, the aspect of death. But I think worse than death is the human suffering. That's what we are afraid. And because I had challenges
with the ill health, yes.
True. I mean, I had challenges with my health throughout the years, quite a bit. And every time the anxiety is, I don't want to suffer. And it's not very easy when you are within. I mean, look, I am a mindset coach, right? I know a little bit my stuff, and I think what her name? Sorry, your name. Transformation. Sorry, Hannity. Yeah. Well, I see she's transformation mindset. So it doesn't mean we have conquered everything.
Good night. I hope not.
We are all work in process. We just
perhaps heal thyself, right?
We're humans.
Yeah, well, not all of us do that though, Charlene, because I know many healers who are out there healing other people, but they don't do anything for themselves. And I think this is absolutely necessary for everybody. So I continuously work with myself, and it's hard to come face to face with your own limitations. And fear is a biggie for us humans. And the main thing we have to discriminate. Yes, some fears though, real fears, and some fears is the real tiger, and some of it.
I think that's what Napoleon Hill is telling us. He's defining that how these fears, the fear of ill health, the fear of old age, the fear of the loss of love, manifests itself in these behaviors and these thoughts that actually, instead of keeping that away because we're afraid we want to keep it away, it's actually just the thoughts of them are bringing it in. And so we're making ourselves ill, and we're making ourselves angry with our jealousy and things such as that. But there's recognition. That's why I like what you two are saying, is to recognize if this is a real fear. If the fear comes after a diagnosis. This is a real health issue. I was not worried about being sick. I was not thinking to myself that just because my family all has cancer, it's going to be my turn and I'm going to die at 72. And, that wasn't it, right? It was the cancer hits. It is cancer. what are we going to do about this? But until we get to the point of what are we going to do, there's that fear and then the steps to get to. Yeah.
Fear paralyzes you.
Yes.
And it does not allow you to think clearly. Fear kills clarity. And if you don't have clarity,
like that.
you can't get your answers.
Somebody make a meme about that. Fear kills clarity. Somebody make a meme. That's good.
So you can't get your answers. You can't connect with your inner wisdom. You can't see things properly. You go into the reactive mode. And then you enter the vicious cycle of negativity. And once you start going downhill, it's like a roller coaster and the avalanche. It's difficult to come out of it. But I think even real fears we can eliminate, and we should be eliminating. And actually, fear itself is a cause of illness or of increase of illness. I believe that whatever illness I have, and each one, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but I'm in it, okay, with the short things and the long-term things. There are psychological reasons behind them. Something caused it. And if you have read The Biology of Belief of Bruce Lipton, and he's a PhD biologist, so he's like professor, real doctor, but he has gone into this area. They know the epigenetics. The genes are not the ones that control how our health goes. It's not. It's the environment.
Yeah.
So what environment are we putting ourselves into? So what kind of energy are we putting ourselves into? So working with fear continuously, I think, is very important. But from my experience, self-talk or just talk therapies is not enough. It's not going to do it. So there are techniques out there that can help you. I use a couple of my woo-woo techniques, energy healing techniques, and
you did not go there. You silly. I deserve this every time.
Energy healing technique. I use, for instance, techniques like emotional freedom technique, EFT tapping, or matrix re-imprinting, which basically it's EFT, but brings out the re-imprinting of positive images in it, which I believe very much. So it doesn't matter, hypnosis, hypnotherapy, but use a technique that can actually help you reprogram your subconscious mind. That's how you get rid of the
fear. Hill's telling us to do.
And that's where acceptance happens. When you work with your subconscious, things happen differently, and you preview things differently. So I totally agree with you, Dina. You're right.
So,
Dina, you're awesome. Even in your illness, I know, not feeling well, so you're tired and slow thinking, I think, right? And feeling a little weak. So thank you. It's still awesome stuff coming through.
I will. See, that's why I had the time to watch you today, because today I said, I'm in bed, I'm not well, I'm going to listen to my body.
Yeah.
And my body now needs rest. There's 1,000,001 things I need to do for my work. But I said, I have to listen to my body. I need rest. And I'm going to listen to Charlene.
Isn't that wonderful? Thank you. Thank you.
I'll try and hang out for a little bit. So thank you very much for, again, sharing the platform with me. I appreciate it. Let me share that with my Twitter followers.
Oh, I appreciate that.
And tell your aunt. I'm going to tell my aunt as well.
Your favorite aunt.
Or as they say in the South here in the U.S., tell your auntie.
I love it. I love it. Cool. Okay, guys, I'll let you go.
Okay.
And if I have an inspiration again, I'll come back. Okay.
Oh, thank you. Yes, please do.
Bye.
Bye. I need to go as well. I have a 2:00 call, so I need to get ready for it. Charlene, it's always a pleasure to jump on your platform.
Always a pleasure to see you, Hannity.
And share and discuss things. Take care, and I'll jump soon, very soon.
Okay. Anybody else want to jump into the seats? Just Roni, did you want to try again? Let's try again. Refreshed a couple of times, didn't you?
Hey, how are you?
And there he is. He made it on. Hot dog. Cool beans. Doesn't get much better than that. Persistence.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. I would like to say, first of all, this is my first time here. So it's a pleasure
first time
for
I've seen
me.
you.
And also, I work on radio and TV here in Puerto Rico. So I'm from Puerto Rico calling you right now.
Fantastic. Love it.
And I was listening the thing about the fear. And it's so interesting because many times people who start feeling that fear think that they can do things. And people stop to do things when they feel that. But you know something, it's so special that people like you start talking about this. Because when somebody start talking about their fear, they start feeling better, and also they start passing through that moment. So right now, I'm gonna be at the air on our radio station. I only play American music, 80s and 90s, and for the first time ever, I would like to say to my whole country here in Puerto Rico that you are online, and people start following you because you are so special doing things like this on the net.
Well, how fantastic is that? Thank you, Ronnie.
Have a wonderful day, and all the followers. Well, my name is Ronnie, so have a great day.
Oh,
I'm
appreciate
still watching
that.
you.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for joining us. It's good to have you here, Ronnie.
Thank you.
Good to have you here. And hey to Puerto Rico. I'm going to get there one day. I don't know. Maybe Ronnie needs some help with the radio show, and I could end up going to Puerto Rico. You just never know, right? Put it out there. Thank you for coming on, Ronnie. I greatly appreciate it. Hello, Ralph. Glad you've joined us. Talking about it does take the edge off, yeah. And as we discussed earlier, just talking about it oftentimes is enough, and sometimes it's just not. But I think that what I'm getting out of this, the reading, as well as those who've joined in the live stream and in the comment section, is that it begins with awareness of the reality of what our thoughts are doing to us. Right? That, because Napoleon Hill is telling us that we have these fears and they express themselves in our behavior. So our fear of ill health, even though we're perfectly healthy right now, I could walk out of the doctor's office and be given a clean bill of health, the annual physical, the dentist, everything. There's nothing wrong with me. But I honestly, and this is what he's telling us, we can convince ourselves that that's just not true. That's just not true because, I'm reading things in social media and on the news about these horrible epidemics that are happening. It's flu season here in town, here where I live, right? About how every time you go to the schools, elementary schools especially, but oftentimes the middle and high schools, you want to be careful because all the kids are sick. All the kids are sick. So what you're thinking about, everything you can do to not get sick. And my friend Sean has been finally gotten through to my head that the negative does not stay in our thoughts. When we're trying to change our thoughts, if we talk about, I'm not going to get sick, we get sick because that's all our internal subconscious is hearing is the get sick part. Yeah. So we think about that. Now let's move on from that and say, what about that fear of loss of love? How does it show itself? And it shows itself in jealousy. And quite honestly, if you've got some jealousy going on in a relationship, very rarely does the partner appreciate it. Very rarely. So you're jealous because you want to keep your partner, right? You want to keep your spouse. And your jealousy is expressing itself in behavior that actually pushes the spouse away. Self-fulfilling prophecies. So what Napoleon Hill once again is telling me, and I'm hoping, those who are seeing something different jump on and tell me, but what he's telling me is that I have control of my own thoughts. And he's also telling me that these are symptoms that I can look at and recognize in myself, that which he lists just in this short, five or six pages, on the previous pages and the pages we're going to be reading about and reading over the next couple of days. They're just symptoms. Can I recognize my current behavior in any one of those? And if I can, then I have something that I can point out that it's a problem that's keeping me from being a better me, from my personal growth path that I've put myself on, and that I can tackle it. Dina, do we really have control of our thoughts? According to Napoleon Hill, we do. And I have to admit that I believe I do. I believe I do have control of my thoughts. And it takes practice. And I say that because of the things that I've been able to change in my own thinking because of practice. And that auto-suggestion, I've done those things without knowing about Napoleon Hill. I've done those things. Hey, Dina.
Hello again. It's easier to talk than to type. I keep on making mistakes. It takes
Sometimes,
so long.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Well, I need to not contradict. There's another word. I need to. The way I put the question is to really think about it, because yes, theoretically, we say, oh, we can control our thoughts, but can we really? Can we really control the thoughts?
Okay,
Many
two
times
different
we
things
will
there.
see.
Is do we or can we? Two different things there.
Well,
and I think it begins with learning
we
how to.
Because at a specific point of life, not generally, we can't. And I can see that even for myself when I'm a person that works a lot with my mind.
Right.
So let's say, and I'll give you an example, something upsetting happens. Even if it's not a big thing, right? Your husband or your kid, no, let's take the husband is better. Your husband goes and makes something completely out of your norm, like out of your acceptance, right? And it only requires one little thought, the first one. So it happens, and then one thought will bring the other, will bring the other, will bring the other. And you find yourself swimming into repetitive scenarios. Some thought we are repeating. I mean, research has shown that we repeat at least 30,000 times the same thoughts in our minds. So there are times that I control my mind. I can hear me yapping, right? So at that moment, when I have allowed myself, I didn't get it on time, and I allowed my time to go in that avalanche, then what happens? I am just not able to control my mind. So it requires practice to be able to control the mind. And when it comes to the mind, the example that I often use, because it's so clear, is getting a horse from the wild, and then it goes all over the place. You may say, okay, you lock it somewhere, but then to be able to train it and do whatever you want it to do, it requires time.
That's where I was
practice.
Coming from. That we can. It's not a flippant statement, and nor should it be taken as, well, I should be able to do this in an instant. Because my own experience proves what Napoleon Hill has been teaching us, which is there's a process. There are techniques and tactics that we can put to use to prepare ourselves for things, to change the way we are now so that we're prepared for something better as we move forward, to change how we see things, how I think about things, so that I am better for it. But to do it intentionally, and it takes time, and it does take practice.
Yeah, exactly, intentionally. But when it tells people, you said, I can't, because, for instance, when we teach meditation, you can see how the mind works, especially when you sit in meditation, because that's where you can hear your mind running wild. And so
You
I
want to
can't
really drive,
concentrate.
you want to prove you're crazy? Sit in meditation, right?
Right. So
Go
I
ahead.
can't.
Try to stop thinking about it. Stop thinking about that stuff. Go ahead.
So yes, people feel, oh, I can't do it. I can't control my mind. And that happens because we are allowing the subconscious programming take charge.
Exactly. There you go. Exactly. Beautifully said. Thank you, Dina. Welcome, Ralph.
Good morning. Good morning. We have thoughts, and different times we're introduced to things that may throw us off. I've heard it said, if you have a pet dog and it is just milling around the yard or the house, we can follow that dog around and focus on that dog and stay in tune to what that dog is doing, or we can just let it be. Likewise, our thoughts, when we have a thought that enters our mind, and 99% of the thoughts we have already thought of, but we tell ourselves more stories and add to that to build it bigger and stroking our ego. So, when we have thoughts that enter my mind or introduced to us, we have a choice. And when we work on training ourselves to either just let that dog be, just let that dog roam on its own, but do not focus on that, and allow our minds to focus on what we're thinking about, we bring about.
Yeah, that's another way to put it, is something catches our attention, a thought, and we decide right then and there whether we're going to dwell on it and let it grow and magnify it, or are we going to let it pass right on through and replace it with another thought. And that's where the control comes in, to be able to have something to replace it with. That's oftentimes what got me tripped up is, well, that's all well and good. You want me to just like change it, but what do I change it to? And of course, over the years, I was taught things of what to change it with, to replace that thinking with something else. When the thought would come that I had been trying to remove, when the thought was come, I'd recognize it and replace it with a new thought, and continue to do that. So now that old thought doesn't come into play. It's the new way of thinking.
It definitely takes practice.
Yeah.
When someone,
and intentional. You have to be intentional about it.
Very intentional. When somebody does something, insults us, or cuts us off in traffic, we have that split second to make a decision to let that dog be, and just, rather than rant and rave over what somebody did, oh, poor me, say a prayer for them, move on, and stay focused on.
Trust me, I pray a lot on the road. I pray a lot.
You're a good girl, Charlene, because sometimes I have a road rage on the road.
Well, it's my form of road rage, is that, oh, dear God, certainly you're going to come down and help them drive more carefully, aren't you? Yes, you are. You're going to cover them and cover me and make sure we're not that's the way I do it.
I'll try your technique, Charlene. Listen, my eyes and nose start running, so I better go again.
Okay,
so
dear. Thanks for dropping in. All right, so I'm going to shut down the recording portion of the program. Hang in there, Ralph, and then I can keep the room open for another 30 minutes or so. I do have an appointment in 1 hour, so I need some time to prep for it, so hang on tight. For those who've been watching the replay, thanks for hanging on this long. It's appreciated. This is Charlene Burke with Grow Because You Know. That's www.growbecauseyouknow.com. I want to thank everybody who's joined me in the live stream today, offering their thoughts and their views on what we've read from Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. Thank you, everybody, in the comment section, because your comments were just as important in the discussions that we were having here in the live stream. So I want to ask everybody, let's move forward with the day, shall we? On purpose, with purpose, to grow our hearts, grow our minds, and grow our businesses. Until next